Hi there, my name is Michael Ellis, and I've been an environmental educator in the Bay Area since 1977. And we're going to go on a little journey through the Marin Headlands, which is right next door to the beautiful hotel that you're staying in Sausalito.
Underlying all of the Marin Headlands is a confused jumble of rocks called the Franciscan Melange. Of course, the rocks aren't confused. They confused us. It's composed mostly of an assorted mixture of rocks which were heated, folded, and faulted when the North American tectonic plate slammed into the marine floor of the Pacific Plate. And right here is exposed 100-million-year-old radiolarian chert. This formed from trillions of tiny one-celled zooplankton. It's composed mostly of silica, and the rocks are very resistant to erosion, and they are strikingly beautiful. One remarkable thing to imagine is that 10 to 15,000 years ago, sea level was about 250 to 300 feet lower than it is today. A giant river drained the entire Central Valley of California and flowed through a broad valley. And over 30 miles west of where we were standing, it finally met the Pacific Ocean. So tourists and local residents alike believe that the Golden Gate was named for the Golden Hills, or perhaps the gold discovered in the Sierra. It was actually Colonel John C. Fremont in 1848 who gazed at the narrow strait that separates the bay from the Pacific Ocean and said, "It is a golden gate to trade with the Orient, and I give this name for the same reason that harbor of Byzantine was called the Golden Horn." Byzantine, by the way, is another name for Istanbul. So basically, he named it for that waterway in distant Turkey which links Europe and Asia. The feeling tone of the Marin Headlands can change dramatically in the fog. Frequent, especially in the summer, the fog provides much-needed moisture for the plants and moderates the coastal climb. It's caused by localized upwelling, which brings cold ocean water right up to the surface along the coast. And as air from the open ocean blows across this cold water, the moisture in that air condenses out into fog. And as the fog travels inland, it's heated, and the moisture is reabsorbed, and the fog dissipates. It's sunny in Berkeley and foggy in Sausalito. The native peoples that inhabited this area were the coastal Miwok. The Marin Headlands was the southernmost limit of that group. They ranged north throughout modern Marin County to the southern part of Sonoma. And to the south were the Ohlone people. The Miwoks were hunter-gatherers, relying mostly on deer for protein and acorns for carbohydrates. There was a village in Sausalito, but there's not much archaeological evidence for the Miwok in the headlands. And unfortunately, there are no pure coastal Miwoks left. We Europeans displaced them. The coast of California can be quite treacherous, but not surprisingly, the first lighthouse along the west coast was in the Placid Bay on Alcatraz Island. It was guarding the burgeoning city of San Francisco. The third lighthouse was at Point Bonita, at the north entrance to the gate. It was first constructed high on a hill, but they found that the pervasive fog mostly hovered at that elevation, so they tore it down and rebuilt it lower. To gain access, a 180-foot tunnel had to be hand-drilled through that hard metamorphic rock. The lighthouse has been guiding ships into the bay since 1855. It doesn't rotate, but the bright light turns on for 3 seconds and off for 1. Local mariners know this well. The strategic importance of the San Francisco Bay resulted in significant military activity, beginning with the Spanish in 1775. Here's a gun emplacement which was built around 1900 and had 12-inch rifled mortars that had a range of about 8 to 10 miles. But after World War I, airplanes became an active part of military operations. Therefore, the next evolution of defenses had to be protected from above, as illustrated by this battery. This one had 16-inch guns with a range of 27 miles. And during the Cold War, Nike missile bases were constructed. The surface-to-air missiles were guided by computers and had a range of about 150 miles up to an altitude of 200,000 feet. One of these in the Marin Headlands has been converted into the Marine Mammal Center. That's a good use. And not one weapon has ever been fired in defense of the bay. Thank goodness. In the late 1960s, the U.S. military realized they no longer required thousands of acres in San Francisco as well as in the Marin Headlands, and the land became surplus. There was a huge movement by citizen activists and politicians of both parties to protect and preserve this remarkable landscape. And in 1972, the Golden Gate National Recreation Area was created. It's the best urban park in the world, now at 82,000 acres and at the doorstep of 8 million people. Believe it or not, a bridge spanning the Golden Gate from Marin to San Francisco was first proposed in 1872. Actual construction finally began in 1933. On opening day, May 27, 1937, 200,000 people walked the mile and a half across the bridge. During the 50-year anniversary in 1987, 300,000 walked across and actually flattened the bridge, much to the concern of the authorities. Whoops. The towers are 746 feet high. The road is 220 feet above the water. The suspended part of the bridge is 4,200 feet long. And the international orange color is easily seen in inclement weather, and it's considered one of the wonders of the modern world. So one of the favorite places, for this marine mammal to haul out, rest, and relax undisturbed is right on the way to the Point Bonita Lighthouse. And these are harbor seals. Just north of us in Point Reyes, at a place called Double Point, is the largest breeding colony south of Alaska. True seals require these flat areas to haul out. They have to undulate up on their bellies because, unlike their cousins, the sea lions, they can't pull their rear flippers underneath them and walk. Seals aren't nearly as agile as those barking sea lions. And by the way, at Pier 39 in San Francisco, those are California sea lions. Notice all the color variation, but they're all the same species, and fortunately they seem to be thriving in our modern world. Also on the way to Point Bonita, you can find this plant growing right out of the hillsides. It escaped from nearby gardens. And to quote my favorite botanist, John Thomas Howe, these wild cabbages have answered the call of the wild and have returned to that same sort of exposed maritime habitat from which their progenitors were weaned in prehistoric times in Europe. The centuries of domestication have never removed from them the hereditary fabric of this plant, its propensity for a difficult life on rocks, swept by gales off stormy seas, and wetted by flying scud from crashing surf. The sea, it would seem, has been the cabbage's one true and constant love. Ah, such poetry. And actually, they still taste good, too. But you're not supposed to pick things in the park. So here's a really common plant found along the coast, Artemisia californica, or coastal sage. And unlike the garden variety sage, that one is in the mint family. This one, while smelling similar, actually belongs in the sunflower family. You might be familiar with the Great Basin sage or sagebrush, which is very common in the deserts. This is the same genus, Artemisia. There are two trees that dominate the headlands, and neither one is native to this area. Here is Monterey cypress, a conifer. It was originally only found in two very limited locations in Monterey County to our south, at Point Lobo State Park and at Del Monte Forest. It was widely planted by early settlers and has escaped and spread along the coast, and now looks quite at home here. The other very successful invading tree is from Australia, the blue gum eucalyptus. It's one of 900 species of eucalypts. It was originally planted in California in the mid-1800s in response to the railroad's need for timber to make railroad ties. Bad idea. The wood is extremely hard and difficult to season properly. The tree spread like crazy, displacing native vegetation and creating ecological deserts. It's a fire hazard as well. In many of our parks, officials have been actively removing the trees. This is ice plant, or sea fig. And while this plant may look beautiful, it's very invasive. There are two species, both of them probably from southern Africa, one with yellow flowers and the other with pink. Brought originally to stabilize railroad beds in the early 1900s, ice plant has escaped, gone wild, and driving native plants to extinction, especially along the coast. Many parks have programs to remove the ice plant. People that live in California, but come from a different part of the country, bemoan the fact that we do not have very many fall colors. Well, here's our poison oak. It changes color. Not quite like those sugar maples of Vermont, but we have to take what we can get. And this is a good plant to be aware of. The mnemonic is leaves of 3, let it be. It has a number of growth forms. It can be prostrate, growing along the coastal bluffs like here, or a small bush, or even a vine twining high up in a redwood tree. The ecological name for most of the habitat in the headlands is coastal scrub. It's dominated by bushes and grasslands. The ones we're looking at right here are coffeeberry, coastal sage, twinberry, and coyote bush. The native peoples had a legend that everywhere coyote peed, a coyote bush popped up. The genus Bacchus is named for the Roman god of wine. These shrubs have greatly increased since cattle grazing ended. They are fire adapted for their very rare lightning strikes in the Bay Area. We are only a short hike away from the inn above tide, and there is so much easily seen wildlife, including coyotes. Closely related to domestic dogs, coyotes figure in many Native American myths as the creator, the fool, the transformer, and the prankster. In fact, the word coyote is an Aztec word which means trickster. Well, they certainly have tricked their way into 49 states, throughout Canada, and all the way south to Panama. Deer are the other large critter you may see. Our black-tailed deer is the local subspecies of the larger mule deer, which is found in the Sierra and the Rockies. In the fall, the rut begins. Males demonstrate their fitness by growing an extra bony appendage, that is, antlers, and the males corral 4 or 5 females, driving off competitors. After a gestation of 7 months, the does give birth to 1 or 2 fawns. In the winter, they segregate into separate sexes, like this group of females. Well, there's no such thing as a seagull. There are ring-billed gulls, mew gulls, California gulls, and this one is a western gull. They breed on nearby cliffs and out at the fairlawns, and are quite common, easy to see. Crows and ravens are similar, but ravens are usually found in pairs, crows usually in flocks. Crows are smaller. Ravens have wedge-shaped tails, and crows' tails are squared off. Ravens also form long-lasting pair bonds. They not only get together in the spring to raise young, but they hang together throughout the entire year and seem to really enjoy each other's company. I often see them preening each other, cooing, playing, and generally behaving like a couple of newlyweds. The commonest LBJ, or little brown job in the birder lingo, is the white-crowned sparrow. They are ubiquitous all year long, and they thrive right at the edge of bushes and grasslands, never far from protective cover. The juveniles lack the vibrant black and white stripes. The other common LBJs are the song and golden-crowned sparrows, also pretty easy to see. Here in Rodeo Lagoon is a first-year double-crested cormorant. Cormorants are found throughout the world in salt and fresh water. This could be a male or female. There's no sexual difference between them. Corvus marrant. Corvus is Latin for raven, and mar, of course, is sea, the ravens of the sea. They're very effective at fishing, paddling with their webbed toes, and can dive up to 25 feet. A wonderful bird is the pelican. His mouth can hold more than his belly can. He can hold in his beak enough food for a week, but I'm damned if I know how the hell he can. Well, the beak can hold 3 times as much as the belly can, but I doubt if all that food can last a week. Since DDT was banned in the U.S., brown pelicans have made an astounding comeback and were removed from the endangered species list. One of the easiest places to watch them plunge is Rodeo Lagoon and right off the coast. One of the most remarkable natural history events occurs in the fall, when literally tens of thousands of raptors, hawks, eagles, etc. gather at the Marin Headlands to fly across the Golden Gate. The Golden Gate Raptor Observatory, a nonprofit organization, has been monitoring this remarkable event since 1984. And while autumn is the peak time, all year long it's easy to find red-tailed hawks, American kestrels, northern harriers, and rarely even bald eagles. Garter snakes are the most commonly encountered snake in North America. They are found all the way into Canada, even Alaska, and down into Mexico and beyond. They come in a wide range of colors: red, orange, brown, blue, green, and black. They are relatively gentle and rarely bite, though they can. Basically, anything that's smaller than they are is considered food. And unlike many other snakes, they don't kill their prey first, but swallow them alive. Consider yourself fortunate if you spy one of these beauties.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed this little tiny introduction to the Marin Headlands, which is so convenient to where you're nested and gives you an opportunity to learn a little bit about the natural and the cultural history of this remarkable part of the Golden Gate National Recreation Area.